Hi, good evening and welcome to the next in our series of Tutorial Tuesdays. Just a little reminder from my son Douglas that please don't forget to subscribe, but when you subscribe you need to turn on notifications and then that'll let you know that we've got a new video. Our intention is very much to do 2 videos a week. One will go out early Tuesday morning and the other will go sometime on Friday evening. So hopefully if you have a look at those 2 times of the week, that's UK time obviously, that will give you an idea that there's a video coming up. I'd like to say a quick hello to all our overseas subscribers and viewers. Turns out over 49% of our people that watch our videos are from outside the UK. So a big hello to you all wherever you are. So this is what we're going to talk about today, and that's second-hand points. And I'm going to talk through the main brands that are available in the UK and I guess to some degree rest of the world. So we'll start having a look at something a little bit unusual, though they're quite common in the UK, and these are the French Jouef or Jouef points. They're obviously quite old. 3 basic types. You have the manual one here that's got a little lever. There we go, little lever that works the points. There's a second type of manual point. These are a little bit rare. These are a very nice action. They have a slide. And then there are the electric points. There's a couple of different versions of these. One has some little points here that you, little points here that you put the wires in. This is one of the pre-wired ones. Can also be used manually. So, particularly the electric ones, very good value for money. You can pick all these points up for around £3 a point. Now, when you think that to buy a new point and point motor will cost you £20, then about £3 for an electric point is really good value. The action of them is really smooth and quiet, much better actually than using the usual combination of separate point motors. So from that point of view, they're a really good buy. However, they do have a couple of drawbacks, whichever of the 3 you're talking about. The sleepers are much thicker than your Peco and Hornby, which makes it difficult if you're doing ballasting and so on. And I actually broke a point once because, of course, I nailed the point down and it was higher than the 2 bits of Jouef track. They're also very sharp radiuses, especially these smaller ones, and not all locos are going to like that, so it's really only good for shunting. Their main problem, well, it's not a problem, is that they are electro-frog, so that means that the power is on. You don't switch the power by switching the points. Now that means if you want to use them, you've got to isolate any other points using wires and so on. However, I have used them on a shunting layout where I only wanted to use one layout at a time. One loco at a time, and for that they're excellent, particularly these little manual ones. There are a few problems as well you encounter with them. They're made up, I don't know if you can see this, but they're made up of an impossibly large number of bits of track. So that on most points would be 1 piece, that would be 1 piece. Sometimes they're missing when you buy them, and they also don't always connect very well. So I've had quite a few where you really can't use them because they just won't pass the power. But if you get a good one, they're quite an interesting little point, especially the electric ones. If you can live with the fact they've got to be isolated, then that's a very, very cheap way of getting an electric point. You know, you should be able to get them for between £3 and £5, which is a quarter of the price of the normal. So 2 more similar points. One is the Lima one and one is the Mahano point. The Lima are quite common, particularly in the UK. These again are electro-frog, so all the same comments apply as to the Jouef, that you'll need to use isolators if you want to use them on sidings and things. Some people won't like this large plastic part here. It's particularly large because here would have been the connections for when these were electric points. I've seen electric points on eBay. I've never managed to buy any, so I don't know what they're like. When I use these manually, I get a saw and I cut this piece off just to make it a bit smaller. Now, I've used these on 2 or 3 layouts quite happily. They do have a couple of drawbacks. This little button here that slides the point breaks relatively easily, and I've found that the mechanisms can get very gritty, so it's sometimes worth putting a bit of WD-40 in there before you start moving them. And I have occasionally found the blades a little bit fragile. But if you get a good one, they're a really useful little point for a shunting layout where you've only got 1 loco or you don't mind isolating. But you really should be able to pick these up for a couple of quid each. I occasionally see people paying £4 or £5 for them, and I personally wouldn't. Slightly more rarer are these. This is a Mahano point. You can sometimes see them done by Tempo, but it's all the Slovenian. Now, originally, I really liked these because they've got a really positive action. Same problem with the big plastic piece. That, again, is because you can get them electric, which, again, I haven't seen. However, the reason the electric ones would be better is these do not have a spring on them. And I've had coaches where you run a coach along and one coach bogie goes that way and one coach bogie goes that way, which is obviously amusing but not much fun. So I'm not now actually a big fan of these, and I wouldn't really pay very much money for them. So then we move on to the much more common Hornby points. So let's look at a couple of the older ones available. There's these which have the big box on the side. Now, these have a couple of advantages. These switch mechanisms, manual switch mechanisms, seem to be incredibly robust. I've never had a problem with them, and they're also much more compact. And actually on a layout, you could quite easily get away with one of those as being just a point motor by the side of the track. So that's very much in its favour. And of course you could hide it on the platform if you wanted, but out in the open they look good. They are, again, on electrofrog, so you will have to isolate if you want them for sidings and things. Beyond that, they're not a bad little point. These do seem to corrode very badly and need a clean, but I have used them, and if you like a nice compact little switch housing, they're quite good. This is then the other Hornby point. You'll have seen me use these a great deal because they've got a very compact little manual switch there. Now, originally, both these and the other Hornby ones, if you get the old Hornby point motors, they will work these, but I've never actually tried that. These points are Insulfrog, so you can use them on a siding and switch the power from one to the other by using the point. Having said that, occasionally I get two problems with them. One is that it doesn't transfer the power, and the other is that it does down both tracks at the same time, and it's to do with the way these contacts are here. They also, in my experience, don't particularly take to being ballasted very well, which is fine for me where I use ballast mat, but if you're going to ballast them, they're not so good. Again, I see people paying £5 or £6 for these. I pick them up for between 50p and £1.50 each, and I reckon £2 the most I'd want to spend on them. But if you get some good ones, and they can be a bit fragile at this end as well, the sleepers, you can make some really nice layouts with them for really no money at all. And that's what we've done on 2 or 3 of our shunting layouts that you've seen videos on. Try and get some good ones. Don't pay more than a couple of pound a point. And you can make quite a nice little layout out of those. So let's come to the most common point that most of you are going to see, and this is the modern Hornby nickel silver. Now I should say that most of the other points are either nickel silver or steel, so the steel ones in particular corrode. So this is nickel silver, which you don't have any of the corrosion problems with, and this is one of this is Hornby R8072, so this is the common one. Really nice points. Some of the newer ones have much smaller frogs, so you don't get the problems with the locos going over. Nice positive action that works backwards and forwards. The only slight problem we've had with these is there's a little spring under there to make sure the point stays positive in operation. That occasionally breaks. There's not really a lot you can do about it. But we've only had it a couple of times. It's really up to you. I've seen people paying as much as £5, £6 for one of these. I'm not sure. A new one is £10. I suppose if I was having to buy 5 or 6 for a layout, then that sort of saving is worthwhile. But if I was going to buy 3 points, I think I'd buy new ones. I am often able to pick these up for £3 or £4 either on eBay or various second-hand shops. At that price, I'm more than happy to use them, and that would be my recommendation: is find these Hornby ones, but don't pay too much for them. We then come, and this is a little Y point just to be different, to what in my view are the best points available, which are the Peco points. This is a slightly older one, but the newer ones are very similar. They have much smaller plastic frogs, which make them better, smoother in operation on 060s, thank you Douglas, and 040s. The other big benefit is this operation is much firmer and more positive than the Hornby ones. You can hear it click over quite nicely. And I've never had a problem with a Peco point going wrong. As a real quick point, just unhelpfully, the little plastic studs on these two are different. So you have to fiddle around to get a Hornby point motor to work a Peco motor and vice versa. These you can pay again £5–6 for, and I probably would for a Peco point. I actually got a box and I only paid about £3 each for these. So you can get them a little bit cheaper, but you are probably going to end up paying £5 or £6. Given that the new ones are 10 or 12, then that's really quite a good saving. And I think if I had the choice ever, I would hang out and I would try and get second-hand Peco points. You really can't go wrong with Peco. They are available as Insel Frog or Electro Frog, depending on which you prefer. I always use the Insel Frog. I've also got to say, guys, that everything I'm speaking about here is analog DC. I have no idea how these points will work on DCC, except that I suspect you'll only be able to use the newer Hornby and Peco points. If somebody's DCC savvy, by all means comment. We don't touch DCC, so all these comments here are about DC analog points. But my absolute favourite, without doubt, are the Peco ones. If you can get them £2 or £3 each, so much the better. Even at £5 or £6, that's a big saving and well worthwhile. One other thing to be aware of when you're using points, these are little short curves. You can get them in different radiuses. Always bear in mind you're going to need one of these for every single point that you use. Basically, they go on the end of these to either help you bring the track round to do a parallel track, or potentially move it away so that you don't get clearance problems. I got a little bundle there of 3, I think for about £1 second hand. You can see these quite often on eBay. Lima ones are particularly nice, and I have to say that we're going to do a video later on track, and I'm quite fond of Lima track. So there we go, a little update on the various points that are available to you. Hope everybody finds that useful. Prices will vary obviously in different parts of the world, but generally speaking, the older points I'd want to be paying a couple of £1 for. The Jouef one's electric, if you don't mind isolating, are quite a good buy. But the best of the lot, as far as I'm concerned, are Peco. So as always, thank you very much for watching one of our Tutorial Tuesdays. We do upload these in the early hours of the morning for our overseas visitors, which I hope you appreciate, because it's hopefully a different time of day for you. As always, like, comment or subscribe, and thank you very much for supporting Budget Model Railways.
Hi, thanks for watching the video and for the nice comments. Click on the left for a previous video in this series, click on the right for another video you might enjoy, and please don't forget to click to subscribe, like, comment, etc. Thanks again.